Let's talk about the additions that they made yesterday. Omar Khan announced that Kyle Allen, Dean Lowry, and Quez Watkins are coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have agreed to all three of them. I think all of them exciting names to some degree or another, but everybody's wondering who are these guys. Obviously, Kyle Allen's an easy one. He's your QB3. He gets rid of the Ryan Tannehill talk. He's only 28 years old. So I kind of like that. If you're going to look at a situation and say the Steelers need a third quarterback, they're probably still in the market to draft one, and I'm not going to rule that one out, but they want a veteran third quarterback, and Kyle Allen's a much better situation than Ryan Tannehill. At least Kyle Allen has some future in front of him, could be here for a couple of years. If you're not looking at both Russ and Justin being your 1-2 punch for the next 5 years, well, hey, you might as well see if you could find the next, I don't know, Landry Jones or the next Mitch Trubisky. And I know those are terrible examples. The next Mason Rudolph, that's a much better example. And I think Kyle Allen has some potential to be so. I think at 28 years old, he's got some starting experience in the NFL. He throws a lot of interceptions, but then again, he's played for Washington, Carolina, never really threw a pass, or I don't even think he actually did throw a pass in Buffalo. So you got to rule those out. I just don't think that he's ever had a team as good as the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm not saying that he's going to come in here and be anything special. I don't even think he's going to come in here and be good. I just look at it and say, hey, he's a pretty decent QB3 and a guy that, I mean, last year I was watching our San Francisco 49ers guy, Grant Cohn, talking about, hey, the 49ers want it to be a competition where Kyle Allen's involved to some degree. So if you look at it and just say, yeah, that's not a bad QB3. The bar should be very low. Cool. I like the addition. I still think that it leaves room for one more. I still think that they're going to bring somebody in to compete with Kyle Allen. I still think a Joe Milton's on the table. I don't see it being a Michael Pratt. I don't see it being a Jordan Travis. I think those guys have been ruled out. But when you go deeper into the draft with those 2 sixth-round picks, I think the Steelers might have an opportunity to still bring in a rookie. I'm not going to rule that out. Maybe an undrafted guy. And I would say that those cards are still certainly on the table. Quez Watkins is the next one. People are, curious. I think curious is the right answer. I was on 93.7 The Fan last night, and I was asked, who is this guy? What can he bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Does he have a shot to make the actual roster? I think the answer there is yes. I think you look at this situation and you say that Quez Watkins could be your wide receiver 4, and he's got better Gunnar Olszewski potential, if that makes some sense. He's got to be able to come in here and be a kick returner because he's got kick return ability. And I know that has dwindled over the last couple of years. Started strong, has gone to, last year wasn't even really part of the Eagles kick return team, but he's got those capabilities. I think he's got to make a case for himself as a kick returner. He's got to be able to do punt coverage. That's what happened with Anthony McFarland and Godwin Igwebuike last season. It wasn't that the Steelers gave up on Anthony McFarland. It was the fact that Godwin Igwebuike could do kickoff, can do punt coverage, can do everything else outside of just returning a football. Quez Watkins has to be able to do the same. If you look at him and say, hey, this dude's a speedy weapon who has, he's had a decent season in the NFL. He hasn't had a lot of success by no means, but if you're going to let him compete with Van Jefferson for your 4th spot or your 5th spot, that's not bad. And I think he could beat out Van Jefferson. I think you could look at it and say Quez Watkins might have a better opportunity to make this roster than Van Jefferson does. And everybody's going to say, Van Jefferson's a quality wide receiver. He won a Super Bowl. Yeah, he won a Super Bowl. He's had one decent season. So has Quez Watkins. The rest of them, if I look at Van Jefferson now, he's a 15 catches a year type of guy. I think Quez Watkins is the same thing. But in Arthur Smith's offense, where he likes to use that versatility, where he likes to use that speed, I think that Quez can be a dude who comes in here and has I don't want to say a decent role, but a role. He's got some sort of role in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And it starts as a kick returner. He's got to be able to return kicks. And if he could do that, I think he's got a shot to make the roster. And he's 4.35 when it comes to his speed. That's not bad. You could work with that. And I think the Steelers are excited to have that opportunity. It's weird right now when you look at the Steelers wide receiver room and just say it's George Pickens and a bunch of wide receiver 4s. And that's not ideal. But I think that gives them enough going on right now where when they sign a wide receiver 3 or add a wide receiver 3, they could go land a wide receiver 2 in the NFL draft. And I think that that fills out very well. And then they're kind of hoping Calvin Austin turns into a little bit something more. And then it turns out even better. So I think they've set themselves up well with the Quez Watkins addition. I'm not upset about it. I think a lot of people are looking at it and say, hey, where's the splash? Look, at depth's good. Competition's good. Bring in somebody to try and replace a guy like Gunnar Olszewski or a Miles Boykin. I'm not upset about it. I think it's a good move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Dean Lowry. Dean Lowry, I'm thrilled about. I think that is a great addition. I don't know what the contract looks like yet, but I think it's a phenomenal move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It adds depth. He's a guy that's got 84 starts in his NFL career. He spent a long time in Green Bay as a starter. He's a dude who could play all 3 positions on the defensive line. That's what you're looking for. Big body in the middle, knows how to get his hands up. I think he's got 17 pass deflections in, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years in the NFL. I guess 8 was last year, but he only played 9 games, tore his pec. I'm not concerned about the pec injury. A lot of people have brought that up to me. Hey, well, he's coming off of a season-ending injury. Yeah, there's a difference these days when it comes to a pec injury and a lot of other things. A pec injury is season-ending, but it doesn't really hurt you long-term like a lot of other injuries do. It doesn't really slow you down. You could come back from that pretty easily, especially as a defensive lineman. We see it all the time. I'm not concerned about the pec when it comes to Dean Lowry. I think he's a great backup. I think he's an upgrade over Armon Watts, who, I mean, I don't know if you remember this one, Nick, but we were talking months ago. You can't lose Armon Watts. According to Pro Football Focus and everybody else out, you couldn't lose Armon Watts. The Steelers lost Armon Watts, and hey, look at that. They got better. They got better. They upgraded the position. I like Dean Lowry a lot. I think that that is a move where he's not going to replace Larry Ogunjobi. He's not going to start over Larry Ogunjobi, but he's got the potential to. And I think that if Larry misses time because of injuries again, or if Cam needs to, I don't know, have less of a workload, you could fill in Dean Lowry and feel really good about where you stand with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's a great move. One of my favorite moves of the offseason, to be 100% honest with you. I think it's one of my favorite moves because it just adds a really good veteran that we didn't see coming. We're talking about DJ Reader. We're talking about Christian Wilkins. We're talking about all these giant splash guys. The Steelers said, look, we're going to spend less money and we're going to get somebody who has a lot of starting experience, who could come in here for the Pittsburgh Steelers and be a backup. And if need be, can be a starter because he's proven to be a starter in the NFL. Big fan of Dean Lowry, fan of Quez Watkins, fan of Kyle Allen. I think it's all 3 good moves yesterday. I think Omar Khan's cooking, and I think that he's not going to be done cooking anytime soon, and we'll get into that in a little while. As for the NFL draft, when it comes to a defensive lineman, I'm not ruling that out at all. I still think that's very much so on the table. I think they've shown a lot of interest in the defensive line in this NFL draft class, and I think that they can make a move, and I would not be surprised if a move comes early. You know, that second, third round draft pick is a defensive lineman who could come in here and be a better DeMarvin Leal or a better Isaiah Loudermilk. I think that that's very much so an option and very much so still alive, even with the addition of Lowry. I think it's a good move. And to be quite honest with you, sleeper for, you know, one of the best tier 3 free agent moves of the offseason. Not tier 2. I still think we're in tier 3 at this point. I think that the impact that Dean Lowry is going to have is going to be pretty damn good. Pretty damn good.